Ecclesiastes is a fascinating book, and there are many views related to the book. I take a pretty negative view of the first-person discourse, which is chapter 1:12 through 12:8, written by someone called Kohelet, which is translated the preacher. And I think a wise man came along and took that and presented it to his son. My son occurs in the epilogue of the book to warn him of the dangers of speculative wisdom. Now, not everybody agrees with my approach to the book, and that's okay. There's room for disagreement, but I want to lay out just several of the exegetical reasons why I take the negative view that I do. First, I would say that Kohelet's approach to his search for the meaning of life is based in an empirical methodology through observation. 18 times the verb "I saw" occurs in the book of Ecclesiastes. So Kohelet is seeking knowledge through his experience, and he uses that as a validation of the knowledge as well. Secondly, Kohelet does not privilege wisdom. Psalm 1, Proverbs 1 through 9, talks about the two ways, the way of wisdom, the way of foolishness. You do everything you can to avoid the way of foolishness and to go the way of wisdom. Well, that's not Kohelet's approach. Kohelet wants to experience and see where wisdom is going to take him, but he also wants to experience and see where madness and folly take him. So he doesn't privilege wisdom. And this explains, I think, some of the negative consequences, conclusions he draws in the book. He's really wrestling with the breakdown of the deed-consequence relationship. Third, Kohelet doesn't bring God in to solve the problems that he is wrestling with. 2 times in the book, he has an opportunity to do this. At the end of chapter 3, the second part of chapter 3, he offers a theological reflection on God's judgment, follows that with an anthropological reflection on the relationship between humans and beasts. And he basically says that humans and beasts are no different. Their origin is the same, their destiny is the same. Humans have no advantage over the beasts. And he leaves it there and goes right into a calls to enjoyment. He doesn't bring in what he said about God to address this issue. Then in chapter 9, he says that the righteous and the wise are in the hand of God. Now, in the book of Psalms, if you're in the hand of God, that is a place of security. That is a place of protection. But not so with Kohelet in chapter 9. He goes on to say it doesn't really matter if you're righteous or wicked, if you're good or evil. You are treated the same way by God. So he doesn't bring God in to solve the problems that he's wrestling with. And then, let me say just a few words about the calls to enjoyment. The book begins with an important question: what profit is there to our labor? Profit, yitron. Is there any lasting benefit to our labor? He answers that question in chapter 2, verse 11, where he says there is no profit to our labor. There is no lasting benefit to our labor, which is very different than what Proverbs 14:23 says. But then in the prior verse, chapter 2, verse 10, he does say there is something from our labor that we should benefit from and that we should enjoy. And he uses a word, chelek, which can be translated portion. There's a portion from our labor that we should at least enjoy. Now that word becomes connected to the calls to enjoyment, which means that the calls to enjoyment in the book are not the answer of faith. They're the only thing we can expect in a world that doesn't work out the way we want it to. So what are we to do with this negative assessment of the world in which we live? Well, what if Solomon wrote the first-person discourse? Chapter 1, verse 2, chapter 1, verse 12 seems to identify the author as Solomon. And what if it's the private memoir written by him in a local dialect, not in the official standard biblical Hebrew, during that period of his life when his foreign wives turned his heart away from the Lord? That would explain a lot of the struggle that he's going through. And a wise man comes along and takes it and presents it to his son and to others to warn us of the danger of speculative wisdom, but also to explain how someone like Solomon, the wisest man at that time on the earth, how did he end up the way he did? Certainly, the book of Ecclesiastes gives us a true assessment of living in a fallen world apart from God. The meaninglessness of life, taken up in the key word hevel, is referred to in Romans 8 when Paul uses the Greek word metaiates, which is a translation of hevel, and he talks about creation under the futility there in Romans 8. And the good news is that Christ has delivered us from the futility of living in this fallen world, and we can have true meaning in life through Christ.